What's worse than being fired from Formula One? How about having your replacement take your seat?
Red Bull have replaced Dani Kvyat.
He was promoted into that drive prematurely.
And your girlfriend. And your daughter. Sounds like a plot from a Hollywood drama, right? Well, as always on my channel, this story is 100% real. And although these are the most dramatic parts of his story, the title is more an understatement than anything else. You'll see what I mean.
Who is the right guy to be partnering Max Verstappen?
Born on April 26, 1994, in Ufa, Russia, Daniil Kvyat moved to Moscow with his parents when he was just 6 years old. He jumped into a go-kart for the first time at 8, instantly falling in love.
Then moved to Italy to do more karting when I was 11 years old.
To be honest with you guys, not much is known about his early years, but let's be real. If a Russian family, just a decade after the Soviet Union collapsed, could afford go-karts and relocate to another country, they weren't exactly clipping coupons. Anyway, after crushing it in karting and racking up quite a few international titles, Kvyat caught the attention of two big players, a Russian oil giant and Red Bull Racing. At the time, Red Bull was ramping up its young driver program, where we also discovered another pretty promising driver.
Hello, my name is Carlos Sainz Jr. I'm 15 years old.
Red Bull got both of them in an open-wheel car, and they were so impressed by what they saw that they signed them both right away. From that point on, Kvyat and Sainz were officially part of the Red Bull program. So, what happened next? For Kvyat, it was straight to Formula BMW in 2010. That's where he got his first taste of single-seaters and started making serious moves towards F1. He snagged a few podiums and wins, proving he had the skills, and even dipped his toes into Formula Renault the same year. By 2012, after a few solid seasons in different series of Formula Renault, he finally clinched the Alp Series title. Then came 2013, the year Kvyat went full beast mode. He made his GP3 debut and absolutely crushed it. With 2 wins and 3 podiums, he took the title. Yeah, in his rookie season. His rise was so fast and so impressive, I think you know what happened. It was simply inevitable. When Webber retired at the end of 2013, it set off a domino effect. Ricciardo got promoted to Red Bull, and Helmut Marko decided to roll the dice on the young hotshot, Kvyat.
Resume with motorsport, as Russia's second ever Formula One driver, Daniil Kvyat, is preparing for his maiden season in the year Russia hosts their maiden F1 race in Sochi.
But it wasn't just a Toro Rosso seat, it was hopes of one day driving for Red Bull. And at just 19 years old, 10 months and 18 days, when he debuted at the Australian GP, Kvyat had a long, bright future ahead. Or at least, that's what everyone thought back then. And man, the season couldn't have kicked off better for the young Russian. In Melbourne, he qualified 8th and finished 9th, just behind his teammate Jean-Eric Vergne. By doing so, he set the record as the youngest point scorer in F1, beating Vettel's record. After that, he kept the momentum going, scoring points again in Malaysia, China, the UK, and Belgium. He was on top of his game, and his popularity kept on growing.
Very close, touching front wing and rear tyre, Toro Rosso to Ferrari there, and that's a lovely move by Kvyat.
And he wasn't far behind Vergne. I mean, the Frenchman had already been at Toro Rosso 3 seasons without any real wow moments, so it was pretty clear the Russian was shaping up to be Red Bull's next big hope. The plan? Keep him at Toro Rosso for a couple of years, let him build up some confidence, and then move him up to the first team when he was ready. Simple, right? But then, things took an unexpected turn.
Sebastian Vettel to leave Red Bull at the end of the 2014 season.
You took us all by surprise this morning with the announcement you're leaving Red Bull. How difficult a decision was that to make?
Well, you can imagine, obviously a very tough one. It's not, that I'm unhappy. I obviously enjoyed every, race I had there, and we had an incredible run.
Honestly, nobody saw it coming. With barely any time to react, Marko and Horner had to make a decision.
Red Bull Racing signed young sensation Daniil Kvyat for the 2015 season.
My name is Daniil Kvyat.
So, yeah, that's how Kvyat ended up at Red Bull. Not bad, right? At the time, I think only Vettel had gotten promoted to the first team that quickly. Just goes to show how much faith they had in Kvyat. The big questions were, how would he handle the pressure? And could he keep up with Ricciardo? Everyone was asking the same thing, and well, it didn't take long to get some answers. I won't lie, 2015 started off pretty rough for Red Bull. The car was absolute trash, and Kvyat and Ricciardo could barely fight for points. Kvyat didn't even make it to the start of the first race in Melbourne due to transmission issues on the way to the grid. Total disaster. After that, Kvyat and Ricciardo started scoring points consistently, but they were still way behind Mercedes, Ferrari, and believe it or not, Williams. Yeah, they were actually still competitive back then. Their highlight was Monaco, where Kvyat finished 4th and Ricciardo came in 5th.
Ricciardo 5th, Kvyat a career best finish of 4th.
But even then, they weren't anywhere close to fighting for wins. Honestly, it was just sad to watch. Red Bull went from winning 4 straight championships to being a midfield mess at the start of the hybrid era. They had 2 amazing young drivers, but with a car like that, they didn't stand a chance.
On fire, on fire, on fire. Jump from the chassis.
It wasn't until the Hungarian GP, where Mercedes finally showed some weaknesses, that Red Bull got their chance to shine.
It's lights out, and away we go. Rosberg and Hamilton head away. Really good start from Vettel. He's already Ferrari are flying. Daniel Ricciardo's had a dreadful start for Red Bull too. It's another bad start for the 2 Mercedes.
These tires are vibrating a lot.
Oh, no massive lockup and no front wing for Nico Hülkenberg. And now Sebastian Vettel can go as well. And look at how Daniel Ricciardo is right on Lewis Hamilton's tail. Hamilton and Ricciardo come together, and Ricciardo has to go wide. Rejoins the race, still wheel to wheel, but there's damage on Lewis Hamilton's car.
And he's the one that was most vulnerable at the back then. Once again, he's gone wide. Now he's lost another position to Kvyat. Hamilton having an awful restart.
And through all the carnage, all the crashes, all the penalties, all the coming together, one man has stayed out in front. It is for Danny Kvyat, a first ever podium in Formula One. For Daniel Ricciardo, it's 3rd place as Red Bull put 2 cars on the podium for the first time in 2015.
What an absolutely insane race. Easily the best of that season. At just 21 years and 91 days, Kvyat made history as the 2nd youngest driver ever to land a podium. You already know who the youngest was. Oh, and Kvyat also set a new record as the best finishing Russian driver in F1. At that point, it felt like Kvyat was just ticking off the milestones and might be the next Vettel. The Hungarian GP was a huge confidence boost for the team. And while I'd love to say they kept that momentum going, the truth is, they didn't. Sure, the second half of the season was a bit better, but the Red Bull car still wasn't anything to write home about. Plus, their Renault engine had a ton of reliability issues. Ricciardo snagged another podium in Singapore, while Kvyat's best results were 2 4th-place finishes in Spa and Mexico. They were doing their best, but with a car like that, it was all about damage control. 2015 turned into a pretty forgettable year overall. The second half of Kvyat's season is mostly remembered for this absolutely insane moment during qualifying in Japan.
Oh, that's a big crash for Daniel Kvyat in the Red Bull, and we do see big accidents.
Wow, just a tiny touch of grass, and boom. Luckily, Kvyat walked away without a scratch, but honestly, that was right up there with the kind of shit Maldonado and Grosjean were pulling off back in the day. And then there was this gem in Austin.
That was going to happen, and there goes Danny Kvyat. And Kvyat has gone into the arm coat coming out of the penultimate corner, and that's quite a big impact.
Yeah, not exactly his finest moments.
Sorry guys, sorry.
But overall, it was actually a pretty solid year for Kvyat, considering how terrible the car was. He finished 7th in the championship, even beating Ricciardo by 3 points. Kvyat proved he was at least on Ricciardo's level, right? To be fair, you couldn't ask for more from Kvyat that year. He did everything he could. Why don't you do the same and click that subscribe button? Helps more than you might think. 2016 was looking like it could be a better season. The goal? Win a few races. Nothing too crazy, just a solid improvement over 2015. Could they achieve that? Well, surprise, surprise, Kvyat's season couldn't have started worse.
We got a car stopped in the middle of the grid.
Now, it looks like a Red Bull. That could be Danny Kvyat. It is Danny Kvyat that has stopped on the grid and very much out of position.
At this point, it was starting to feel like a tradition for the Russian to miss the first race of the year. In Bahrain, things got a bit better, and Kvyat finished 7th, while Ricciardo ended in 4th. Until here, things were kinda normal. And trust me, you'll see what I mean, because after that race, let's just say things got weird as f***. Like, I'm not even sure how to explain it kinda weird.
Welcome along to round 3 of the Formula One World Championship. In 2016, we have beautiful weather here in Shanghai today and a mixed up grid and a promise of 56 laps of thrilling racing.